What if your morning coffee is quietly affecting your blood sugar every single day without you even realizing it? And what if one small adjustment could change that starting tomorrow? If you're over 70, this matters more than you think. I'm Dr. Chima Okoye, and what I'm about to share fundamentally changed how I treat every patient over 70 who walks through my door. Here's what most people aren't being told. Nearly 29% of Americans over 65 are living with type 2 diabetes. Millions more hover right at the edge, undiagnosed, not because they were careless, but because the body at 70 plays by a completely different set of rules. And you feel it in small, wearing ways. That thick heaviness at 10 in the morning, even after a full night's rest. A foggy blur settling in after lunch. That 3 o'clock dip that pulls you towards something sweet, and the quiet frustration that follows. Stay with me. By the end of this video, I'll show you 3 specific things to pair with your morning coffee, most already in your kitchen, that can rewrite how your body handles sugar. Think of yourselves as lighthouse keepers who've been receiving the same signal, insulin, for 7 decades. In younger years, every flash of that light triggered an immediate response. Glucose was welcomed in, converted to fuel, and the signal went dark again until it was needed. But after years of relentless signaling, from frequent meals, processed foods, chronic stress, and simply the weight of passing decades, your cells begin to look away. They've seen that flash 10,000 times. They've grown indifferent to it. Scientists call this insulin resistance, and the consequences are invisible but relentless. Glucose lingers in your bloodstream far longer than it should. Your body responds by sending even more insulin, which exhausts the system further. It's a slow, quiet spiral, decades in the making, and by 70, the machinery has been running in overdrive for so long that even modest sugar exposures become a significant metabolic challenge. Here's where most doctors stop short. Coffee, on its own, can spike cortisol in aging adults, especially first thing in the morning. Cortisol triggers a glucose release that pushes your blood sugar up before you've even eaten anything. For women over 70, whose hormonal regulation has already shifted, this response can hit harder than it did decades ago. But here's what changed my practice entirely. Inside every cup of coffee is a compound called chlorogenic acid. Think of it as a slow release valve at the entrance of your digestive tract, gently narrowing the passageway that glucose uses to flood your bloodstream, buying your body precious response time before the sugar wave arrives. When I found the research, it stopped me cold. A landmark analysis from Harvard's T.H. Chan School of Public Health, following over 100,000 participants for decades, found that drinking 4 more cups of coffee daily was linked to a significantly reduced risk of developing type 2 diabetes. And separately, researchers at the University of California confirmed that chlorogenic acids slow the very enzymes that convert dietary starch into blood sugar, delaying the glucose tide before it ever reaches your blood. Coffee wasn't the problem, it was an unfinished tool. Most people assume that if a morning routine looks healthy on the surface, it must be doing good work underneath. That assumption cost one of my patients nearly 2 years of quiet confusion. Samantha was 74, a retired pharmacist who still swam 3 mornings a week and kept a meticulous food diary. She avoided added sugar, ate lean proteins, and drank her coffee black because she'd always believed black was the cleanest choice. Yet her fasting glucose stubbornly hovered around 132. Her doctor had started talking about medication. She arrived at my office frustrated and genuinely bewildered. I didn't reach for her diet log first. Instead, I asked her to walk me through her exact morning, minute by minute. What she described was medically familiar to me and quietly devastating. The timing, the additives, the sequence. Her routine wasn't protecting her metabolism. It was actively dismantling it before she'd swallowed a single bite of food. The first trap is one almost everyone over 70 falls into without realizing it, reaching for coffee within minutes of opening their eyes. Your body rises from sleep already in a mild state of biological urgency. Cortisol, your natural waking hormone, is climbing toward its daily peak. That peak is healthy. It clears the mind, stirs the organs, readies the muscles. But when black coffee arrives in those first 15 minutes, it delivers a second stress signal, stacking directly on top of the first. An older liver, unlike a younger one, reads this doubled signal as an emergency. It responds the only way it knows how, by releasing a reserve of glucose into the bloodstream, as if danger requires immediate fuel. You haven't eaten a thing, yet your blood sugar is already climbing. This is the dawn phenomenon compounded by caffeine, and in seniors, it can push fasting glucose readings 40 to 60 points higher than they would otherwise be. The second trap hides inside what most people consider the innocent part of their cup. The pink packets, the vanilla-flavored diet creamers, the zero-calorie sweeteners that feel like safe choices. Your gut microbiome is a living community, and by your 70s, it's already operating with far less diversity than it had at 40. Artificial sweeteners don't nourish it. They flood it with signals it has no framework to process. The microbiome reads sweetness as incoming sugar, primes an insulin response in anticipation, and then receives nothing real in return. This repetitive false alarm gradually erodes the gut's signaling precision, making blood sugar regulation increasingly unpredictable. The third trap is the quietest, the afternoon coffee. Between roughly 2 and 4 in the morning, a healthy body performs what I think of as its overnight ledger clearing, pulling excess glucose from the bloodstream during a specific phase of deep, restorative sleep. Caffeine consumed after 2 in the afternoon delays the arrival of this phase, sometimes by 90 minutes or more in older adults. The ledger never fully clears, and that unresolved glucose carries forward into tomorrow's morning numbers. When Samantha came back 6 weeks later, her fasting glucose had dropped from 132 to 104. She hadn't changed what she ate. She hadn't added a single medication. She had simply changed when she drank her coffee, removed the artificial creamer she'd relied on for years, and stopped having her afternoon cup after lunch. Her body had been waiting for the right conditions, not a miracle supplement, not a stricter diet, just fewer obstacles. In a moment, I'll give you the 3 exact things to add to your cup. Simple additions that cost almost nothing, available in most kitchens right now. But first, if what you're hearing is helping you, please subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from today. The first thing to add is something you very likely already have in your kitchen: a tablespoon of raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar, stirred into a small glass of water and drunk in the 5 minutes before your first cup of coffee. Think of it as laying down a welcome mat before the caffeine arrives. The acetic acid in apple cider vinegar temporarily slows the rate at which your stomach empties into your small intestine, meaning glucose, when it does enter your bloodstream, arrives as a slow, even trickle rather than a sudden wave. It also prompts the liver to stand down from its emergency glucose release, softening that early morning cortisol spike before it has the chance to compound. The metabolic ground beneath your morning has been steadied before the day even begins. The second pairing is half a teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon, not the common cassia variety found in most spice racks, but Ceylon specifically, sometimes called true cinnamon. It can go directly into your coffee as a bruise or be stirred in afterward. Here's why it matters at a cellular level. The compounds in Ceylon cinnamon, particularly a family called type A polymers, behave like a key shaped to fit a lock your cells have almost forgotten how to open. They activate specific glucose receptors on aging muscle cells that have grown sluggish, coaxing that door ajar so insulin signal can finally reach its destination. A review published in the Annals of Family Medicine, drawing on multiple controlled trials, found that cinnamon supplementation produced significant reductions in fasting blood glucose, particularly in adults with existing insulin resistance. Half a teaspoon is the clinically meaningful dose. More is not necessarily better. And if you take blood thinning medication, check with your physician first. The third pairing costs nothing and requires no preparation. A 10-minute walk begun within 20 minutes of finishing your coffee. Picture your muscles as a secondary drainage system running quietly alongside your bloodstream. At rest, that system stays closed. Glucose accumulates in the blood with nowhere to go. The moment you begin walking, your muscle cells activate a channel that operates completely independently of insulin, drawing glucose directly out of circulation and converting it into movement fuel. Caffeine sharpens the muscle's readiness to receive that fuel. Together, the walk and the coffee act as a coordinated draw, clearing the morning sugar tide in a way neither could manage alone. Before we go further, a word on quantity, because more is not always better medicine. For adults over 70, general medical guidance recommends no more than 2 to 3 cups of coffee per day. Beyond that, caffeine can begin to burden the cardiovascular system, elevating heart rate, provoking irregular rhythms, and in women with existing cardiac sensitivity, producing the kind of palpitations that disrupt sleep and quietly drive blood pressure higher. 2 well-paired cups will outperform 5 unguarded ones every single time. Alice was 77 when she first came to my office. A grandmother of 6 and a retired school teacher, she'd been planning a family trip to Portugal for 3 years. She hadn't booked it, not because of money, but because she didn't trust her energy to hold up through the travel, the walking, the late dinners with grandchildren. Her pre-diabetes diagnosis had done little to lower her numbers, but it had done a great deal to lower her sense of possibility. I didn't add a single prescription. I introduced the 3 pairings: a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar before her morning coffee, half a teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon stirred into the cup, and a 10-minute walk taken within 20 minutes of finishing it. 5 weeks later, her fasting glucose had come down from 119 to 94. Her endocrinologist noted her A1C had shifted into a range they hadn't seen in over 2 years. No new medications, no referrals. She booked Portugal the following week. I got a postcard from Lisbon 4 months later. Now, a warning. Everything you just learned is powerful, but it can be neutralized in a single morning by what I call metabolic hijackers. These are the 4 additions that quietly undo every benefit these pairings offer. The first is liquid sugar. Honey, maple syrup, flavored syrups, or even a teaspoon of table sugar stirred into your cup. They enter the bloodstream as a fast, unbroken surge. There's no trickle, no buffer, just an immediate glucose flood that overwhelms whatever protective work the apple cider vinegar and cinnamon were doing. This includes natural sweeteners. Your bloodstream doesn't distinguish between raw honey and a candy bar. The second hijacker wears a health halo. 0-calorie chemical sweeteners, aspartame, sucralose, acesulfame K, are what I call the Trojan horse of aging biology. They pass through your gut, appearing benign, but inside they trigger the same insulin anticipation response as real sugar while delivering nothing for it to act on. Repeat this daily and you slowly teach your metabolism to misfire. The third hijacker is the convenience trap. Heavily processed instant coffees and 3-in-1 sachet blends. Most contain partially hydrogenated vegetable oils and industrial emulsifiers that generate a low-grade inflammatory response in older gut tissue, the exact environment that worsens insulin resistance over time. The fourth is the carbohydrate collision. Eating a processed muffin, a white toast, or a pastry alongside your coffee creates a biological gridlock so dense that no pairing in the world can fully untangle it. The pairings are tools, not antidotes. Protect them. Here's what you now know. Every morning, before that first cup touches your lips, a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar and water prepares the ground. Into your coffee, half a teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon opens the door that insulin has been struggling to reach for years. And within 20 minutes of finishing your cup, a 10-minute walk activates the drainage system your body already has, the one that doesn't need insulin's permission at all. 3 actions, 3 layers of protection. Together, at 75 and beyond, they create a synergy no single supplement could replicate alone. A brief word before we close. If you are currently taking diabetes medication, metformin, insulin, or any prescribed blood sugar drug, please do not adjust your dosage based on this video. These pairings are supportive additions, not substitutes for professional care. Bring this to your primary care provider and ask them to monitor your numbers. That conversation matters. If someone you love is quietly struggling with blood sugar, the fatigue, the frustration, the sense that her body has stopped cooperating, share this video with her today. No explanation needed. Just send it. Sometimes the most generous thing you can do is put the right information in the right hands. I want to leave you with something more important than a protocol. Your body, at 70, at 75, at 80, is not broken. It has not given up on you. It is asking for a different kind of conversation, one where you give it what it needs in the sequence it can still respond to. The women who leave my office with their numbers finally changing didn't do anything heroic. They stopped fighting their biology and started moving with it. That is not restriction. That is not deprivation. That is respect for a body that has carried you this far and still has every intention of carrying you further. In the next video, I'll show you the 5 breakfast foods most seniors eat every morning that are quietly raising blood sugar before the day even begins. Foods that look completely harmless. I'll see you there. I'm Dr. Chima Okoye. Take care of yourself.